Listeners of AfriRadio, good afternoon and welcome to yet another brand new thing. We're coming your way. Codes of AfriCell, the Gambia's biggest GSM service provider. Mr. Sister is my name. This I call the hour because it's a rare moment in which we have in our midst, and of course in a very good company this afternoon. And probably by hearing his little intro and bio, we'll be impressed as to in whose company I am this afternoon. The gentleman I am about to talk to is called Dr. Peter Baofu, and who is an author of 102 theories and 122 scholarly books as from August 2017, and numerous and provide clear vision on the conventional wisdom in all fields of knowledge. He's a gentleman who has his acquired or received his PhD in political science from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Dr. Baofu, and an entry into the list of prominent and emerging writers in contemporary authors, and as a U.S. Fulbright scholar in the Far East. He had taught as a professor at different universities in Europe, the Middle East, America. He finished more than 5 academic degrees, including a PhD in political science from MIT, and was a summa cum laude graduate. Let me welcome this immense,
thank you,
landed gentleman. Peter, welcome to AfriRadio.
Thank you for inviting me.
How do you feel being here and being talked about in this manner?
I feel great to have the opportunity to talk to you about these different visions of mine in my publications and my travels.
Does it make you feel humble? Because academics today is as big as the world it is. But do you count yourself as a lucky somebody, or as just a hard worker or a determined individual?
I think that there's a combination of all of them and something else too. It's very lucky for me. I think it's a privilege for me to be able to travel to more than 75 countries now and soon 77, and to live in so many of them and try to understand life from a different perspective all over the world. So that is, I think, is a privilege. But of course, there's also a question of hard work too that I have been doing to engage in a massive project to understand humanity in that sense.
Okay. Before we go into the project, are you on a mission of some sort? Are you on a mission?
Not in the sense of being sponsored by a government.
No.
But in the sense of an intellectual passion.
Exploration.
Yes, exploration about life all over the world. I could have been in a library and just do research by reading books. I can do that too. But I choose to just go to different parts of the world in order to understand and observe life as it is on the ground. That can help me understand life much better that way in the totality than it could be otherwise by reading books.
All right. Peter, let me just, before we go into anything that has to do with academics right now, I just want this very ordinary listener out there who is listening to us, who wants to know you. Who is Peter?
Well, I am a person of many things. I am an author. My intellectual project is to understand humanity in its totality, not just from one perspective, let's say political science, economics, sociology, but also biology, chemistry, mathematics, philosophy, religion, and so on and so forth, in all domains of knowledge. And that's why I have written more than 122 books now and proposed more than 103 theories with different visions about the future life on Earth and elsewhere in all domains of knowledge. So this, I think, is the definition, the mission or the passion of Peter Baofu in its essence.
Okay. Now, Peter Baofu, of course, you mentioned a lot of subject lines in which, I think anyone interested in what academics about can choose and follow. How does this thing got to you? How did it got to you?
Well, I think that there are two major reasons. One is genetic and the other one is environmental. Genetic in the sense that ever since I was a little kid, I was very curious about things. I was very passionate to understand why things happened in the way that they do. So I keep asking a lot of people about my parents or some other people and say, why is this, why is that? But at that time, I did not receive any answer which satisfied me. So I said to myself that when I grow up one day, I am going to pursue an academic life to understand all these kind of fundamental questions which have bothered me at that time, and they still do. And I think that is a major explanation about why I have been doing something like this. Another one is environmental, which means that I have the support of my family. I have been in many of a very good environment. I was educated in some of the top schools in the world, including MIT, for example, and I have been in many other top schools too, and I worked in many of them too. So I have that kind of privilege, and I think that this is a combination of these two fundamental reasons.
Academic and environmental.
Yeah.
Environmentally, was it a challenge?
Yes, but I think that the first reason helps me a lot is my genetic. I do think that I have a very unusual mind, and which allows me to see things and to do things in a way that many other people cannot. Even when I was at MIT, for example, I took only 3 courses, and later on I was rewarded a PhD. Have you ever heard anyone who has taken only 3 courses and get a PhD from MIT or many of the top schools? I mean, I have done a lot of things in my life which are very unusual. So the environment benefits me, but the other one is my genetic, which is also benefiting me too.
Okay.
So two of them work together. Yeah.
Okay, because you brought in genetics, I want to take you back as to what is that, you want to understand genetically that has benefited you so much. Let's go back to the men and women who were responsible for your parents.
Yeah, they do. I'm very privileged to have my family who encouraged me and supported me to pursue intellectual professions. And I think that this is something that I recommend to a lot of families to support their children if they want to do something which is very intellectual. I'm sure that in the future, if I ever have a family myself, I could do the same thing and encourage my children to do whatever they would like to do in what they do the best.
Interesting. Peter, how was your childhood?
My childhood is a larger combination. I was in different continents. I was also not just I was in the U.S. I spent most of my life in the U.S. I also was educated in the U.S. I grew up there too. I also spent some time in Europe. I was also educated in France. I was also in Vietnam too at one point. And I was also in China for the Fulbright scholarship that I told you. And besides, I have traveled to many other countries. So I think that all these experiences from childhood on have taught me a very multicultural understanding of life, a very multidimensional understanding of life. So, and that's maybe one of the major reasons that I have been in so many topics and have been in so many other countries. And whatever I try to understand, they always come from a very different sources of information and perspectives. And I never focus on only one of them and say that is the reason. For example, Karl Marx, for example, used to talk about class struggle because he is so obsessed with that. I'm not like that. Or Freud is very interested in sexuality and talk about that too. And I'm interested in that too, but I'm not that obsessed with that. So whatever the visions, I have a lot of different visions about the future. And my analysis of those visions and understanding is very comprehensive, multiple perspectives and causes.
I will come to Max a little bit and his theories because I saw that you wrote a little bit also on wealth and poverty. And,
Yes.
and of course, Freud is an interesting because you went into psychology and Sigmund Freud there really, touches on you. What is your strength, for example? What is Peter's strength?
Yeah, I think that my biggest strength is my ability to understand a lot of topics, not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 disciplines, but from all of them. I have the ability to go to any subject, any discipline, and try to understand them, incorporate them into a comprehensive understanding of life. And that's why 2 of the 103 theories that I have so far is what I call unified theories of everything, not theory, but theories. And two of them, one at the ontological level, the other one at the methodological level. And I provided that and try to unify all of them. This requires, for example, a understanding of all fields of knowledge. And that's why I have written 122 books so far in all fields of knowledge and try to unify them. That's a good example of my biggest strength, that no one has done that before in that sense.
Does that make you feel any different from the normal human being that we all are?
Yes and no. I think that I have a large affinity with the rest of the human population. I share many of their values and beliefs, and I have been in so many cultures. I live with those people. So I also know that I'm part of them. I share a lot of things that they believe into. But on the other hand, I also understand how different I am from the rest of them, because not just because of my life experience, but also of my education, but also of my visions and my understanding and my intellectual passion. So in that way, I stand out a lot. But on the other hand, I'm also part of that humanity that I have been telling you. You cannot get away from it. It is part of you.
Peter, thank you very much for sharing that little bit with us. I mean, just to remind you, you're listening to AfriRadio, coming to you live from Kairaba Avenue, where we are broadcasting from. As he says, my name, and I'm in the company of Dr. Peter Baofu, and a receiver of 5 different degrees, and above all, a summa cum laude postgraduate or a PhD holder in political science, and of course, an author of over 122 in publications, books, and of course over 103 theories that he has put forward. Where did you propose and defend these theories?
I have been proposing and defending them in a lot of different countries, and I gave presentations, for example, wherever I go. And let me give you 1 or 2 examples about my vision so that you can understand better what I'm trying to do. For example, one of the major beliefs in our time is that democracy is the best political system. Everyone wants to be democratic. I am predicting that democracy will not last. Democracy will be replaced by what I originally called post-democracy, a new political system in the future. And I propose different versions of that about the future. This is a prediction, not an advocation, by the way. I'm not like people who are Karl Marx or Jesus Christ and all that. They advocate something and say, this is good for you. I'm not saying that. I'm just predicting them what the future is going to be. My prediction can be incorrect or correct part of the way.
I want to take you beyond that, because don't be another Nostradamus in here. If you think that you are coining out a new system of government that might come, and you believe that it's much better for humans, much more than the acclaimed democracy, I think you should be able to go a little bit deeper in telling us what is the system and how can it function. Because Marx came with, Marxism, and of course we all know what it is that it has ended up. And but still there are remnants of Marxists who still believe that is the best way forward.
I think that's a very good question. Marx, by the way, is more on economics than on political science. But in economics, I also have another theory too. This time it's about economics. I also predict that capitalism will not survive. It will be replaced by what I call post-capitalism. Now, if you ask about what are the fundamental aspects of all of this, let me give you some example. Look at democracy as a good example. A lot of things about democracy are functional. I think that's fine. But there are also a lot of problems about that. For example, in the U.S. nowadays, is where I'm from, we have a lot of different problems, not just about the problem by Trump and all these people, but also because nowadays there is reverse racism, reverse sexism, reverse classism, for example. And let me give you just one example. This is a very very controversial issue here, is that in America, race issue is a very sensitive one.
Absolutely.
Gender issue and sex issue is also very sensitive. And when you engage in a rational debate with someone, sooner or later, if the person doesn't agree with you, they will call you name.
They will label you.
Yeah, they will label you. You are racist, you are sexist, and that's the end of the conversation. We don't have this kind of rational conversation, and I don't think that that is a very effective way to solving problem, and that's why this kind of problem continue to our time. And right now we have all this kind of problem in America under Trump is just another good example. The problem doesn't go away.
It doesn't go.
It continues.
Are you suggesting a political immaturity by the players or what? Because if there is maturity in politics, these are issues that you should be able to talk about.
Yes, it is a question, of course, about political maturity, but I think there's more than just a question of political maturity. I think the deeper problem, the deeper root of the problem is about the nature of the political system. It's about, in this case, about the democratic system.
So those are the weaknesses of the democracy that we're talking about.
Yes, that is part of the weakness of democracy, but that's also part of the fundamental tensions in relation with different.
Peter, let's just go on a quick commercial break. When we come back, we talk more on the issue affecting democracy.
And from the corner of their eyes, they watch me through it.
AfriRadio.
I'm like a walking razor, don't you watch my size, I'm dangerous.
107.6 FM.
Welcome to the AfriCell Funding Service. Top 5 for this week.
Baby, I beg you, yeah.
I lost my shoes last night. I don't know where I put my keys. I was tired and fell asleep beneath an oak tree.
To set this song as your phone ring, the code is 190167.
Don't tell me that you're coming from the hills alone. You know that's a no-no, girl. Yeah, that's a no-no.
To set this song as your phone ring, the code is 190163.
I'm a runner boy. I'm a runner boy.
To set this song as your phone ring, the code is 190179.
How long will the people suffer? How long? How long will the people struggle? How long?
To set this song as your phone ring, the code is 190170.
Una cartica que yo guardo donde te escribí. Que te sueñe que te quiero tanto. Que hace rato está mi corazón latiendo por ti, latiendo por ti. La que yo guardo donde te escribí.
To set this song as your phone ring, the code is 190177.
Enjoy AfriCell's newest data bundles at the lowest cost ever.
Oh yes, the newest data bundles of 750 megabytes and 1.5 gigabytes. Buy 750 megabytes for the price of 500 megabytes, which is $195, and 1.5 gigabytes for the price of 1 gig, which is $275.
You can have it all. Internet at a turbo speed, super fast.
At a smashing pace with the newest bundles and at prices as low as $195 and $275.
Now you know how it feels to have AfriCell data.
For $195, you will enjoy 750 megabytes and at $275 for 1.5 gig of AfriCell superfast data. Make new friends online. Take care of business over the phone with AfriCell's newest data bundles.
When we say where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow. We mean it. Oh, enough of the chit-chat. How come you spend so much time on your phone these days?
Well, I recharged and doubled my bonus.
Double your bonus? I just bought credit from the shop and received the normal bonus. So tell me, how did you do it?
I did it with my AfriCell Money account. Let go of the old-fashioned and exhausting way of recharging credit on your phone. AfriCell has made it easier yet again. Recharge $40 or less from your AfriCell Money account and double your bonus. That's right. Whenever you recharge $40 or less, you get to double your bonus. And when you recharge any amount above $40, you enjoy 25% extra bonus. Now tell me, isn't that cool?
That is super amazing.
Activate the AfriCell Money service and enjoy all the extras that come along with the service. For more information, call 777.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow. Dares to follow.
A blast from the past.
Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. Whatever it takes, or how my heart breaks, I will be right here waiting for you.
Flashback on AfriRadio.
Welcome back. It is happening here live on AfriRadio. Dr. Peter Baofu is my guest in this hour. We're talking about comparative politics, and here we are talking about capitalism and, of course, democracy, in which Peter suggested that they might all be replaced with a system, a better system that probably might be much more suitable to the human of our time. Contrary to conventional wisdom about capitalism, the pervasive norm to acquire wealth and, of course, the zealous mission to fight poverty have their double sides, often unsaid, in that there is no wealth without poverty, just as there is no poverty without wealth. And that was more wealth, such that more wealth also creates more poverty. We have something to talk about, Karl Marx in here. And of course, wealth goes with capitalism. And in this day and age, it also embedded in democracy. And all these things you suggest will go away. Will go away. Capitalism, democracy will all be replaced by at least a system, if you talk about comparative systems.
Yeah. One of the things that people often misunderstood when I propose something like this is for them to assume that I think that post-democracy or post-capitalism are superior than capitalism and democracy. That's not quite what I say. What I'm proposing is that it's relative. It's historically relative. Each age has a certain political and economic ideology that they believe in, and it can benefit, it can suit them better in that age. But when the age is developing in a different era altogether, there will be new social conditions, new culture, new society, new environment, such that a new economic and political system will become necessary. So in that sense, they change. They change because they fit in better with the situation in a new era. So that is what I mean. Now, going back to the question about Marx or some other people that you mentioned, will they go away? I think they will go away, but they will not be one versions only. There are different versions, and the different versions will be competing with each other. Just as nowadays in democracy, we have different versions of democracy. American democracy, European democracy, Chinese democracy, and all that. And each of them think that the other one is not democratic.
Enough.
The American one think that the Chinese one is dictatorial, is not democratic, and the Chinese one think that the American is like pseudo-democratic.
Pseudo-democratic.
So each one will say the other one is bad, mine is good. Believe in mine, do not believe in theirs. So the same about what I call post-capitalism. There are different versions. The same thing too nowadays. You have market capitalism, you have state-sponsored capitalism or command market economy and all that, and each of them is telling you that there is better. But I'm saying that it's relative to the situation and the environment in the country or society at the time. Okay. So there is no one universal version that is good for everyone, but each version will be fighting and competing with each other, as they have been doing now. But in the future, the post-democratic forces and the post-capitalistic forces, they will be competing with each other too. And I predict that.
And as predicted, it is even existing right now, because if you look at all the democracies that we live under, whether it's in Africa, in Europe, or wherever in America, for example, Chinese democracy, and of course, Saudi Arabian democracy, none of them are the same. But here we are, relatively speaking, you suggesting that each of these will eat each other up depending on how much support is being played out in this global media.
Yeah, this is true about everything in life. Think about a classroom when you have a lot of students taking a class. Some students are going to do very well. Some other students are going to do very poorly. The same thing about different versions of post-democracy and post-capitalism. They have different versions. I talk about some of them in my publications, in my books. But some of them will be much better than the other in terms of competitive. For example, you ask me, if there's some right now already, there are some signs that they're already developing right now. And I propose some of them. For example, the one by China is a good example. China now is an emerging superpower. In terms of the GMP, PPP, purchasing power parity, the Chinese economy was already the largest economy in the world in 2014, 3 years ago.
Yes,
now, in America, we don't like that because we don't like China to replace the U.S. as number one. So we continue to use the nominal exchange rate of understanding GMP, but that's very misleading because that's about speculation on trade. But in terms of production, the PPP is a much better approximation. So, but there is a very important implication that whatever they do in their country will shape the future civilization. Another one in India, for example, I also talk about the role of women and how they will shape the future movement of human civilization. Because now as they participate more and more in the labor force, they have more to say. Now they are dictating the feminist way of understanding. Even if you watch a lot of films, programs, TV station, education, and all that in America, for example, in Scandinavia, and you see more and more they are imposing the feminist viewpoint on everyone else. They become as oppressive as anyone else too. So this is one of the major problems that post-democracy had to resolve. So in the sense, they are much better than the democratic system right now because we are not able to resolve them, but they will.
That's also arguable. But I mean, in some form, we're talking about the inequality, of course, societies, and to start with men itself, the inequalities of men, women, and everything that you believe in creation that's been created, whether it's evolution, and of course societies emerging at different times, blessed with different resources, just as you and I are here talking about. How does this play into your psychological? I think what you have in your theories in here, before going into the political sciences, the behavior. Beyond human political behavior to post-human political behavior, which you published in 2017.
Yes, that's a good question. Remember, I don't have one theory. I have 103 of them. So now another theory of that 103 is what I call post-humanity. In that theory, I propose that the human race, as we understand now, you, African, me, American or Chinese or Japanese or German, they will not survive anymore. They will disappear in the future. The extinction of the human race. What is going to happen is the emergence of new species, new objects, new kind of intelligent life forms in the universe. And I have proposed many of them. So this is another direction toward the post-human development that I'm talking about. Now, in the case of post-democratic and post-capitalistic development, they can be understood too from the context of the biological evolution. Now, back to another question that you just asked before. There are not just one explanation how come there are inequality between men and women. There are biological reasons, even the feminists, they don't like to talk about them. But there are also cultural reasons, and social reasons, environmental reasons, and mental reasons. It's not just only one thing, and you can say, yeah, that is the reason. That's a very simplistic understanding of life. So in the sense, in my publication, I talk about what are the reasons for this emergence. Because as an intellectual, when you think about the future, you have to show evidences. You have to explain to your audience why this happened. So you have to give them the reasons. So in all my publications, no matter which theories, I always propose a comprehensive analysis of all the major reasons, including, let me summarize 4 of them: cultural reason, social reason, environmental reason, and mental reason, which is mostly biological in this sense. So there's not just 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Interesting. How far can you take these arguments? Because depending on who you're talking to, it might be also be defended.
Can you repeat the question?
Depending on who you talking to about the inequalities that you mentioned, because there's no simple factor. It varies. And I think if you want to tell the Chinese or the American, let's suggest the American woman or the American women, you know what, we're equal.
One other thing about intellectual debates in human history is that in many cases, it's not a question of rational conversation. Just like if you believe in God, can you convince someone that you believe in God because you have proven that God exists? For many of them, it's not even relevant. It's a question of faith. So can you convince the feminists or the masculinists or the white supremacists or the black supremacists that what they said is not correct. For example, it's not a question of rational conversation that you can sit together and talk about that. And at the end of the conversation, you say, okay, now we have a rational conclusion. That's what we agree on. And from now on, we are going to behave like that rationally. It doesn't work like that. So what are the reasons for all these conflicts? Again, for the four major reasons that I just mentioned. Some of them are cultural reasons, some of them are social reasons, some of them are biological reasons, some of them are environmental reasons. All of them work together to produce the kind of outcome that I'm proposing. But can you convince someone rationally? It's not a question of rational conversation that you can convince.
Peter,
You cannot convince someone who is a Nazi or a fascist about what they believe or what they do not believe any more than you can convince someone who is a Democrat about what they believe or do not believe or should not believe. It never worked like this. Look at the presidential debates in America. Have they ever proved anything? No. It's just rhetorical. In many ways, it has nothing to do with intellectual conversation.
Because if that was the case,
it is contrary to the very ideal of a debate in a democratic system. It is an occasion for you to throw rhetoric, to engage in character assassination, to all kind of tricks that you can to make your opponent look very bad. It's not a question of let's sit and talk about reason, evidences, and it doesn't work like this in life, unfortunately.
Peter, are you a polymath?
I think I am. The reason I said that I think because every time when I use that word, people say that I'm arrogant. So
here we are just being asking questions. At all I can do.
So I try to use a more neutral term. But if you mean by polymath is someone who has the contribution to all fields of knowledge and try to unify all of them, provide visions about human civilization in a way that no one has done before in history. Yeah, I'm more than that. But on the other hand, if you use that in a very kind of valuative term, then I probably stay away from that kind of.
No, because I can't help, because I mean with all the publications, I mean the books that you've written, from mathematics and the endless volumes, linguistics, the endless volumes, I mean the future of post-human pragmatics, and of course you come into information studies, the future of post-human metadata, and of course human computing, in the future of information architecture. You come into formal sciences, sociology, political science, military and intelligence studies, the future of post-human espionage. The world today, and if we continue, we're talking about law, where you're talking about the human criminality, the future of post-human law. That even thinks of. I want to question where does AI comes into this, because you even went on to write about economics and business, communication studies, physics, engineering, the arts, entertainment, philosophy, and cultural studies, anthropology, sports, history, even religion are most concerned today. I mean, where are we gonna go? Where are we going with all this?
This kind of question is very heavily loaded with a lot of different values and beliefs. It depends on what you want the future is going to be. For example, in one of the fundamental principles that I have proposed in the unified theory of everything, I propose two of them. And one of them is what I call the forecasting backcasting principle. In the principle, I said that if there is something which you predict about the future, there's always something that you're doing something which is backcasting, which means that you are advocating that. There are some people, by the way, when you say that they are predicting something, they are not really predicting that, they are advocating that. So in the sense, I try to stay away from the future because that is not the fundamental task of the intellectual. I'm more interested in predicting the future and see what the visions and the future is going to be in all fields of knowledge. And I think that they move into all this kind of direction that I just proposed. Like in relation to the mind, I talk about the extinction of the human mind and the emergence of post-human intelligent life forms. And in terms of the environment, I talk about the alteration of space and time, the creation of different universe in the future and all that. In relation to society, I talk about, let's say, post-democracy, post-capitalism and all that. In relation to culture, for example, I talk about post-civilization, about barbarity, civilization, and all that. So this is a good example of a very comprehensive about what the future is going to be. And that is the visions that I have in mind.
Okay. Just to wrap up quickly, Peter, I wish we can go on and on because I just want to look at what is artificial intelligence today, and how does that impact on our society and democracy?
I think that artificial intelligence, I wrote a book and more than one too on artificial intelligence. Sooner or later, artificial intelligence is going to surpass human intelligence. It's just a question of time. It's not a question of if, it is a question of time. But I don't think that we should be too worried about it, because we are evolving in what I call the post-human direction. By the time this super intelligence emerges to challenge the world, there are probably not many humans left. Even if there are some humans left at that time, they will be post-humans. So I don't believe in some of those science fiction or film Hollywood movies and all that talking about this kind of super intelligence computer and trying to fight with some humans and all that. It's just for entertainment. The reality is much more complicated than that. And that, I think, has some fundamental implication toward the direction of what I call post-humanity. But again, there are disadvantages and advantages, just like in everything in life. One of the fundamental principles that I propose in extension dialectics is to show, for example, that if this super intelligence and many other life forms that I am talking about, if they have something which surpass humans, there will be something else which they do not surpass humans. I don't believe in the perfect being or God, whatever term they want to use. Whatever we create or whatever they create, we have imperfections, disadvantages, but on the other hand, advantages. So they will go through the same cycle again that we have been going through, but in a different era, in a different progress, in a different visions, in a different values, in a different future of life.
Peter, we can't help but talk about communication and technology, because that's what we deal with. Yeah. And but you've been in Gambia for a while now. How has Gambia been to you?
Gambia is very interesting to me as part of Western Africa. I have been in Africa for more than 10 countries now. I was in North Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, Central Africa, and Southern Africa. Based on the observations that I have been spent some years too in Africa by now. There are some fundamental differences in African cultures, in Africans, when you compare them with other people. Again, you can divide them into 4 categories that I just mentioned in relation to culture, in relation to society, in relation to the mind, and in relation to the environment or to nature. So in that sense, Africa is like the rest of the world, but on the other hand, Africa is also very different from the rest of the world.
And Gambia in particular?
Gambia in particular too. I'll just give you 2 examples that I just made the observation here in the last few weeks. One of the major problems here in the Gambia right now, as you can see, is that there's not much water or electricity on a daily basis. This is the problem that you don't... They are true in some other countries too, but I think that here it is a bit more severe at this time. Yeah. But there are also something very nice about them. One of them is certainly about the hospitality that I have received.
Thank you.
So I think that's very warm. Very it's very uniquely Western African. I was also in other parts of Africa, but they are hospitable in different way.
Okay. Peter, it's good to have you talking to us, and I know if I would love to have you. But unfortunately, your last words.
Africa, all the best about the future. I have written about them too. I think that they have a future, but on the other hand, there are also a lot of problems that they have to confront. But that's true about everyone on Earth. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In AfriRadio, and also I wish Africa all the best.
Thank you so much, Peter. There was, I call him a polymath because I think he is, anyone like him should be a polymath. That was Dr. Peter Baofu, an author of 102 or 3 new theories and 122 scholarly books, all different fields, talking to us here on AfriRadio. Musasi is my name, and on behalf of AfriSol and everyone here in AfriRadio, I want to wish you all a very, very pleasant day. Thank you so much for being with us.
They're trying to figure out